4 years ago, I made a bet with my grandma. If I couldn't win over my buddy's aunt within a year, I'd pack my bags and move abroad with her without a fuss. But when I finally worked up the courage to confess, she gave me a cold look and said, "You're still too young, we're not a good fit." In that instant, I went pale, my heart shattered into a million pieces. I called my grandma, feeling completely drained, my voice heavy with exhaustion. "Grandma, I lost. Take me abroad." That very night, I packed my bags. I left the country with my grandma. That same night, she was dead drunk. When her friends told her to come and coax me back, she just brushed it off, saying, "It's just a kid throwing a tantrum. He'll come back on his own after a while. Don't worry about it." But when she realized I had actually vanished for real, she started searching for me like a madwoman all over the world. She gritted her teeth, keeping silent. Later, everyone knew that Professor Bai was waiting for someone. The man she had already decided in her heart would be her husband. She waited for 4 years. She mistook countless silhouettes for mine. But none of them were me. The despair and disappointment in her eyes almost drowned her. The look on Bai Xue's face back then was exactly like the second emoji in your sticker pack. "Boys, post it and let's see." Professor Lin rushed over in a hurry, placed a hand on her shoulder, and asked tentatively, "Ah Xue, what's wrong with you?" She had never seen Bai Xue look so defeated. Bai Xue curled her lips into a self-deprecating smile. "Professor Lin, I guess this is just karma." Professor Lin froze for a moment, then sat down silently beside her. Back then, I pushed him away so cruelly, naively thinking it was for his own good. I stupidly thought he would always be there waiting for me. I underestimated how much I hurt him. She buried her face in her hands in agony. "It's been 4 years. He's been hiding from me for 4 whole years. He won't even give me a chance to explain." Professor Lin patted her back gently, soothingly, and asked, "Do you think he's never coming back?" "But I really miss him. I miss him so much I'm going crazy." Professor Lin sighed, instantly understanding why she had lost control. "You just saw him, didn't you?" Bai Xue shook her head, struggling to suppress the waves of emotion surging in her eyes. "I just mistook someone else for him." Professor Lin sighed again. In her memory, Bai Xue was always as gentle as jade, unfazed even if the sky were to fall. She would never show a hint of vulnerability in front of others. But now, she saw a completely different Bai Xue, one who could be hurt. A Bai Xue with a beating heart and raw emotions. Professor Lin understood her pain. Any comforting words felt incredibly hollow at this moment. She could only silently pat her back. Meanwhile, I was standing in the shadows of the supermarket aisle. My eyes locked onto that woman, my fingers gripping the shelf until my knuckles turned white. When Grandma asked me to return to China to take charge of the Royal Hotel, I didn't know the hotel was in Yiling City, where she was. I struggled with the decision, but in the end, I came. I kept telling myself that Yiling City was huge, and that even if we were in the same city, the chances of running into each other were pitifully slim. But I never imagined that our reunion would come so soon, on the very first day I returned to the country. I snapped back to my senses and immediately turned around, walking briskly toward the other exit of the supermarket. Back at my hotel room, I finished washing up and lay in bed, but I couldn't get a wink of sleep. I wasn't sure if it was jet lag or something else. I hadn't closed my eyes all night, so I just put on my windbreaker and got up. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and pulled back the curtains, revealing the brilliant, glittering night view of Yiling City. I took a small sip of my red wine, then turned and sat down on the sofa. Setting the glass on the coffee table, I walked over to my suitcase and crouched down. I opened the case and pulled out a dusty iron box filled with my old belongings. As the lid clicked open, my eyes landed on that old cell phone. After staring at it for a few seconds, I dug out the charger and plugged it in. The phone powered on automatically after charging for a bit, the screen looking exactly as it had the day I left. The only difference was that the social media icons were covered in glaring badges showing 99+ notifications. I tapped on the call logs first. Aside from a few missed calls from my brother, Bai Xue, the rest of the endless list was entirely from Bai Xue. This card must have been disconnected ages ago. The final timestamp on the call log showed that right up until the second the phone died, Bai Xue had kept trying to call me. I took a deep breath and opened WeChat. The message list was full of people asking where I had gone. There were also messages from Bai Xue and Chengza expressing how much they missed me, but after my long silence and refusal to reply, their messages had gradually tapered off into nothing. My gaze drifted slowly upward. That avatar pushed to the top by countless messages, Bai Xue's WeChat. It was sitting there quietly at the top of the list. So back then, even after being hurt so deeply, physically and emotionally, I still hadn't been able to bring myself to delete her, foolishly believing there was some hidden reason for her rejection. Finally understood it all now. I had been pathetically naive. I kept making excuses for her, deceiving myself, only to be ruthlessly hurt by her over and over again. My finger hovered over the screen, freezing for a second as I stared at that familiar avatar. My breathing skipped a beat, and then I let out a self-deprecating laugh. What exactly was I nervous about? In the end, I clicked on her profile anyway. There weren't many messages from Bai Xue, just a dozen or so scattered here and there, each one like a monologue to an empty room. Every year, without fail, she would wish me a happy birthday, but those red envelope transfers all expired and were returned because I never claimed them. Later on, her messages became fewer and further between, until they finally faded into complete silence. Staring at the chat history, my heart was a tangled mess of emotions, leaving me with a sense of surreal regret. It's been 4 years. I naively thought that as long as I didn't listen or look, I could truly keep my heart as still as water. Now I realize just how wrong I was. The next day, after Li Yg and the others accompanied me on the hotel inspection, I didn't even bother with lunch, heading straight into the president's office. My assistant, Xiao Xin, walked in with a stack of files and placed them on my desk. Then, she flipped open the schedule. Mr. Mu, the main tasks for the next few days are handling the hotel accounts and business operations. On the third day, there is an exclusive interview, and attending the ribbon-cutting ceremony for President Li's new hotel. President Li is an old partner of the chairman's, so you must attend this event. I didn't even look up. I just gave a faint, indifferent response. Got it. Fourth day's itinerary is much lighter, just a speech at Yiling University. And the rest are just small social engagements. My hands suddenly froze in mid-air. I snapped my head up. What did you say? Xiao Xin looked stunned by my question, then repeated. It's the speech at Yiling University. My brows instantly furrowed. Can this trip be called off? Xiao Xin hesitated, looking troubled. Mu Tong. Is there some sort of issue? It's nothing. Just don't feel I'm suited for something like giving a speech. Don't worry, we'll have the speech prepared in advance. You just need to get familiar with it. Just stay natural and relaxed when you speak. Those things obviously aren't the problem. The problem is that I don't want to see that woman again. Seeing me still hesitating, Xiao Xin had no choice but to pull out the trump card, Mu Tong. This schedule was arranged by the chairperson herself. I raised an eyebrow. Xiao Xin hurriedly explained, the chairperson said, that since you didn't attend university in the country, and Yiling is one of the top institutions, giving a speech there would be a great addition to your resume. Plus, the chairperson and the president are old acquaintances. She knows full well that Yiling's students are the best of the best, and they send plenty of talent to our hotel every year. The chairperson hopes you can use this opportunity to build a good relationship with the school. Xiao Xin shifted his tone, and added with a smile, our manager Li Yg is a Yiling graduate. She joined the Royal Hotel right after graduation. Look at her now, she's one of our hotel's key pillars, creating so much value. I instantly understood Grandma's true motive. She wanted to poach all the brightest minds from Yiling for our Royal Hotel. I nodded, signaling for Xiao Xin to head out. Once he left, I immediately called Grandma. As soon as the call connected, I started complaining. How could I have the nerve to show off in front of a bunch of elite students? After hearing my complaints, Grandma gave a meaningful "oh," and then slowly explained, silly child. Greatness has never been one-sided. Their strength is in academics, while your talent lies in. Grandma's tone was full of gratified laughter. You are naturally sensitive to numbers, hardworking, and eager to learn. And you have a real knack for management. I couldn't help but chuckle. Oh, so in your eyes, I have all these virtues, huh? Grandma laughed dotingly on the other end of the line. All right, stop quibbling, child. Giving a speech at a university is a tradition at our hotel. Don't be nervous, just talk about what you know and what you've learned. But the moment I hung up, it hit me. How did I get talked into this by Grandma again? I clearly called to refuse. Time flew by, and in a blink, the day of the Yiling University speech arrived. As soon as the car stopped at the school gate, President Liu, who had been waiting for a long time, came up to greet us with a big smile. I had barely stepped out of the car when President Liu enthusiastically reached out his hand. Mu Tong. Hello. I'm Liu Wei, the president of Yiling University. Liu Wei beamed, a flash of surprise in his eyes when he saw me. I didn't expect Mu Tong to be so young. Truly a talented youth. I also reached out to shake his hand, curling my lips into a polite smile. Hello, my name is Mu Jie, the newly appointed executive CEO of the Royal Hotel. I've heard so much about you, President Liu. It's a pleasure to meet you. Liu Wei let go of my hand and gestured to the side, please. Mr. Mu, please, this way. The students are all waiting in the auditorium. We can start whenever you're ready. You've gone to a lot of trouble. He quickly waved his hand with a smile. Not at all. Mr. Mu, please, this way. I walked side by side with him, with a huge group of teachers and student leaders following closely behind us. Faint whispers from the students drifted in from behind. Wow, is that really the boss of the Royal Hotel? He looks about the same age as us. He's way too young, isn't he? No kidding, I heard he's a total genius. Just a couple of years ago, he single-handedly acquired several failing hotels overseas. Then he reorganized their resources and created a unique management style from scratch. In just 2 years, he turned those nearly bankrupt hotels into the third largest hotel chain in the world. I heard the Royal Hotel was his grandmother's business, and he's been studying abroad all this time. Now that the Royal Hotel is having some trouble, he specifically came back to the country to take charge. Oh my god, that is seriously impressive. These comments drifted into my ears, and I could only give a helpless, wry smile. Perhaps because he saw that I was young, Lu Wei wouldn't stop talking the entire way. He not only went through the entire 100-year history of Yiling University but also made a point to boast about several famous professors. He spoke with such pride about them teaching at the school, while I just kept nodding and smiling the whole time. Just then, a student came running toward us. After nodding at me, he leaned over to whisper something in Lu Wei's ear. I didn't catch what the student said. Lu Wei's face darkened instantly. What is Bai Xue doing? Why does she have to have something come up now of all times? Doesn't she know today is Royal Hotel? Bai Xue. Those two names hit my ears, and my face instantly turned pale. Lu Wei suddenly realized I was still standing right there and immediately lowered his voice. He waved the student away and turned back to me with a forced, friendly smile. Apologies, Mr. Mu. Bai Xue is one of our professors. She was supposed to be here with me to welcome you, but she had something urgent come up. There's really no way she could make it in person. Among the top-tier domestic professors Lu Wei had just praised, Bai Xue happened to be one of them. I quietly regained my composure. I let out a silent sigh of relief and nodded with a smile. It's fine. Talented people, you know, usually have a bit of a quirky temperament. Lu Wei's expression froze. He probably thought my words sounded a bit sharp. I stood backstage, quietly waiting for the host's introduction. Hello, students. Today, our school has invited a heavyweight guest speaker, Mr. Mu Jie. At only 22 years old, he is a top expert in the field of international hotel management. He is also the executive CEO of the Royal Hotel. Today, we are honored to hear his live lecture. The host finished introducing my career and achievements with great passion, then raised her voice to a peak. Alright, without further ado, let's give a round of the warmest applause for Mr. Mu Jie. As soon as she finished speaking, I stepped onto the podium, adjusted my notes, and looked out at the audience. The applause erupted instantly. I adjusted the height of the microphone, waited for the clapping to die down, and began to speak slowly. Hello, everyone, I'm Mu Jie, and I'll be your speaker today. The theme of my talk is New Moon. My clear voice carried through the speakers to every corner of the auditorium. Principal Lu, I'm back on campus. I'm heading to the auditorium right now. A familiar voice came through the other end of the phone. As Bai Xue's words echoed through the tranquil campus, his body suddenly froze, his pupils constricting sharply. Shock and wild joy welled up in his eyes instantly. He hurriedly hung up the phone. He took off running toward the auditorium at full speed, letting out a startled cry. The auditorium doors were shoved open, and Bai Xue stood in the doorway. Her gaze scanned the podium anxiously. At that moment, he felt a rush of blood from his feet to his head, his heart pounding so wildly it felt as if it might stop the next second. All he could hear was a buzzing in his ears. He couldn't believe his own eyes. He stared fixedly at me on stage, not even daring to blink. He was terrified that this might just be an illusion, and that if he blinked, I would vanish. Over these past 4 years, he had imagined our reunion countless times. But every time, the fantasy only led to disappointment, making him no longer dare to hope that the person he'd missed for 4 years would actually appear before him. The icy blood in his veins seemed to gradually warm up. Bai Xue finally felt sensation returning to his stiff limbs. He kept his eyes locked on me as he walked step by step toward the stage. Lu Wei, standing in the aisle, quickly moved aside. Professor Bai, where did you go just now? But Bai Xue seemed not to hear. He ignored her completely, walking straight to the side of the front row. My speech came to an abrupt halt, my gaze landing directly on that woman. Storms raged within my eyes. In the instant our gazes met, time seemed to stand still, as if 10,000 years had passed. Finally face to face, I quickly looked away. I forced myself to stay calm and continue the speech. Many people say this world is inherently unfair. Some are born in Rome, while others spend their entire lives without ever knowing where Rome even is. Professor Bai, student nearby saw her standing there blankly and quickly stood up to offer her a seat. Professor Bai, there's an empty seat here. Please, have a seat. Bai Xue finally came to her senses. She looked at the student, nodded gently in thanks, and then slowly sat down. Yet, her eyes were once again firmly locked on me. After a long while, she confirmed I hadn't disappeared, then suddenly let out a low, soft laugh. She stared unblinkingly at me, whispering to the female student beside her. Student, I'm not dreaming, am I? The student turned to look at her, face full of confusion. Professor Bai, what kind of dream are you having? A dream I've been waiting for 4 whole years. Time flew by. The 1-hour speech neared its end. That concludes my sharing for today. Thank you, everyone. After saying that, I took a step back. I bowed deeply to the audience, and the host walked onto the stage with a smile. That was truly wonderful. Teacher Mu is indeed talented at such a young age. I'm sure your experience will inspire every student here. Now that the speech is over, it's time for the Q&A session everyone has been waiting for. Feel free to ask Teacher Mu anything you'd like. I stood quietly on stage, my gaze sweeping across the room, seemingly by chance. It paused on Bai Xue for a second, and then I smiled and began to speak. Students, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll tell you everything I know. Just as I finished speaking, that woman in the front row raised her hand. My brows furrowed slightly. My gaze ultimately fell back to her. The host saw Bai Xue, and said with a smile, "It looks like Professor Bai has a question too. Quick, pass the microphone to her." My face still wore a polite, appropriate smile, but my tone was very calm. The student's opportunity to ask questions is valuable. Professor Bai is well-traveled and knowledgeable. Surely you wouldn't want to take this chance away from the students, would you? The teacher, who was about to hand over the mic, paused, looking at me and then at Bai Xue. Ultimately, he pulled his hand back. Teacher Mu is right. Professor Bai, if you have any questions, we can discuss them privately. Let's leave this opportunity for the students. As he said this, the teacher handed the microphone to the first student who had raised their hand. The next few students took turns asking questions. Most of the questions were about hotel management or confusion regarding future career planning. They spoke eloquently about their questions. Judging by everyone's reaction, they were very satisfied with my answers. Alright, now for the last question. As soon as the host finished speaking, the venue went completely quiet. Alright, the last question. Oh, a student over there has raised their hand. The host pointed to the last row. Yes. Quick, pass the microphone to that student. She stood up holding the microphone, her cheeks flushing slightly as she looked at me. Teacher Mu, I have always admired you. I nodded with a smile. Thank you. Here, can I ask a question about your personal life? I was stunned for a moment. Honestly, I don't really like my personal life being made public, but seeing how shy and timid she was. She must have gathered all her courage, so I pursed my lips and smiled. Go ahead. The female student tightened her grip on the microphone. She looked very nervous. I'd like to ask, do you have a girlfriend now? Bai Xue's body jerked abruptly. Her dark eyes were instantly filled with panic, her gaze pinned to me on stage. At that moment, the room was dead silent. Her heart was pounding wildly, her tense body feeling as if it were standing on the edge of a cliff. Looking into that bottomless abyss, she felt both nervous and afraid. She was both longing for my answer and seemingly afraid to face it. This conflicted mindset left her in a state of turmoil. She was so tense she could barely breathe. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught her rigid stare and knew clearly that she was watching me. I remained composed, just pretending to be calm as I lowered my eyes slightly. But inside, tenderness surged, and the corners of my lips curled into a smile of pure happiness, involuntarily. Thank you for your concern. Yes, I already have a girlfriend. The moment the words left my lips, the audience erupted into a clamor, and Bai Xue's complexion turned incredibly pale in that very instant. I had just officially announced my girlfriend on stage, saying I would bring her to see everyone later. But just as I finished speaking, Professor Bai stood up abruptly. Amidst the uproar, she walked out without even looking back. The moment she left, the smile on my face froze, and the light in my eyes went dim. Right after I finished my lecture and stepped off the stage, a female student suddenly blocked my path. Her face was beet red as she shoved a love letter into my hand. Professor Mu, I like you, she said, bowing deeply. I stood there, stunned, because the moment I looked up, I saw her behind me. The woman who had just stormed out, Bai Xue. The air around her felt terrifyingly heavy, and her cold, piercing gaze felt like she was cutting me to pieces. The student turned around, saw her, and was so scared she started stuttering. Professor Bai, hello. Bai Xue didn't even acknowledge her. Her eyes were locked onto me. Her words were like shards of ice. Fell in love after just one meeting? Student Yuan, isn't your heart a little too generous with these feelings? Terrified by her menacing aura, the student apologized repeatedly and scrambled away as fast as she could. I chose to completely ignore Bai Xue and turned to head toward the lounge. But the next second, she grabbed my wrist. The searing heat of her palm felt like a branding iron, making my whole body shiver. She snatched the love letter right out of my hand, and tossed it into a trash can without even looking at it. I snapped. Bai Xue, that's enough. Cut it out. Bai Xue just stared into my eyes, her voice cold and hard as she interrogated me. When did you start seeing her? I didn't catch her drift at first. She gritted her teeth and asked again, your girlfriend? I let out a cold laugh right then and there. Why on earth would I need to report to you? She went silent instantly, though those eyes of hers seemed to be looking straight through my disguise to see everything. I used the most distant, detached tone I could muster. I spoke every word clearly and deliberately. Professor Bai, this is Yiling University. Don't you think it's inappropriate for you to be grabbing a male professor who has a girlfriend in front of everyone? The moment I finished, her tall frame actually swayed. The sharp edge in Bai Xue's eyes finally faded away. I'm sorry, she said, lowering her gaze. She silently let go of my hand, and I immediately turned to walk away. But from behind me came her voice, lonely yet relieved. It's enough that you're back. I paused in my tracks. She was staring at my back. Her eyes rimmed with red, her voice thick with tears. Intimate and filled with longing, she whispered, "Gurgur. I've really missed you." My heart felt like a massive wave had just crashed over it. But I could only take a deep breath and force my heart rate back down. I used the coldest tone I could find to stab her. "I'm sorry. But I've never missed you." The news that I had a girlfriend at Yiling University caused a stir across the entire hotel. Everyone was all ears, gossiping, dying to know who my mysterious girlfriend actually was. But 3 whole days passed, and the legendary girlfriend never showed up. Instead, there was a woman waiting at the hotel entrance, coming without fail every single day, just sitting in her car. She'd either just stand under the tree, prompting the receptionist to curiously ask what she was doing. She'd only say she was waiting for someone, until everyone eventually realized that this elegant, high-class woman would follow me silently after I finished my shift and left. One day, while I was busy reconciling the accounts, my assistant, Xiao Xing, leaned in and asked in a secretive tone, "Boss Mew, have you heard the rumors going around the company lately?" I paused mid-page, my hand stopping on the ledger. "What rumors?" "The ones about you having a girlfriend." I immediately put on a stern face and corrected him, dead serious, "That's not a rumor. I really do have a girlfriend." "But who knew?" Xiao Xing couldn't hold it in. He burst out laughing, peeved. "Ha ha ha ha." I raised an eyebrow. "Xiao Xing, you're getting bolder by the day, aren't you?" He quickly stifled his laughter, but he still couldn't resist a jab. "Boss Mew, I've been with you for 4 years. You work like a machine that never needs a charge. And aside from Lu Wenji, there isn't even a female mosquito within 5 feet of you. You suddenly saying you have a girlfriend? Isn't that just a total joke?" I shot him a sidelong glance. "And why can't my girlfriend be Lu Wenji?" Xiao Xing answered instantly, "Lu Wenji likes women." "Thanks for that. The hotel is always buzzing with gossip." And to put the matter to rest, I made a point to clarify things during a meeting. I addressed everyone's doubts right then and there. Of course, I didn't deny the fact that I had a girlfriend. Gradually, people in the hotel stopped talking about my private life, but living at the hotel forever wasn't a long-term solution. I decided to move out and rent a place. My assistant, Xiao Xing, eagerly offered to help, but my requirements for a place were so bizarre that I eventually decided to handle it myself. Unexpectedly, after looking for only 3 days, I actually found a place in an old apartment complex. One where the property management and security were questionable at best, and I fell in love with the unit. Simply because the layout of the place looked exactly like my grandma's house. I signed a contract and moved in that very day. My landlady, Grandma Xu, was incredibly kind. She chatted with me until late at night and left feeling quite reluctant to go. After seeing her off, I was so exhausted I just collapsed onto the sofa, and that's when it hit me. I hadn't even had time to eat lunch. My stomach gave a loud, hungry growl. I scrambled up to find something to eat, but the moment I stood up, a piercing pain shot through my stomach. It kept getting worse, more and more intense. My hands and feet went ice cold, and suddenly, my vision went black. I collapsed to the floor with a loud thump. I don't know how much time passed, but Grandma Xu came back with a chicken drumstick and saw my door standing open. She walked inside, and was so shocked her eyes went wide. "Oh, you poor boy. What's happened to you?" She called out to me a few times, but I didn't move. Panic-stricken, she dropped the plate and ran out to call for help. Who would have thought she'd run straight into a woman? Bai Xue caught her brow furrowed with concern. "Grandma Xu, what's going on?" "Teacher Bai, please help. My new tenant has fainted." Bai Xue's expression changed instantly as she rushed into the room with her. When she finally saw me collapsed on the floor and rolled me over, her pupils dilated in shock. Zhe didn't even stop to think. She immediately leaned down, scooped me up, and bolted out of the room with long, hurried strides. When I opened my eyes again, I was already lying in a hospital bed. Grandma Xu was watching over me, and as soon as she saw me wake up, she quickly reached out to help me sit up. "Oh, my dear, silly boy, you've finally woken up." I looked at her, completely dazed, and asked what happened, and she immediately started rambling on and on. She fussed over me with a heavy heart, blaming my low blood sugar from skipping meals and my acting up stomach issues for leaving me too weak, causing me to pass out. I braced myself to thank her, but she quickly pushed me back down into the bed. She said it wasn't her who brought me in, but that Teacher Bai. I was filled with confusion, and just then, Grandma Xu beamed toward the doorway. "Teacher Bai is back with the things," she said, and I followed her gaze. My whole body froze in an instant. The woman outside the door was carrying a plastic bag. Dressed in all black, she looked tall and slender, with messy wisps of hair fluttering in the breeze. Those deep, piercing eyes hidden behind gold-rimmed glasses were staring right at me, unmoving. It was actually Bai Xue. My heart skipped a beat. Grandma Xu went to meet her, saying, "Teacher Bai, thank you so much." The doctor just checked on him and said the boy is fine now. Only then did Bai Xue slowly pull her gaze away from me. She nodded gently at Grandma Xu and said, "It's been a bother for you today. The roads are dark and unsafe at night. I'll have Lu Yixia drive you home." She was still talking to Grandma Xue when, unexpectedly, before she could finish, Liu Yixia popped up at the doorway as if by magic, and the teacher and student immediately started bickering. Wasn't until Grandma Xue threatened to hike the rent that Liu Yixia started begging for mercy with a long, miserable face. Bai Xue walked into the room, calm and collected, with the groceries she'd just bought. I kept a straight face, staring at her coldly. Why are you here? Don't tell me you've been following me the whole time. She let out a soft exclamation of surprise when she heard that. She explained that Liu Yixia, who lives right across from me, is actually her mentee, because her thesis got sent back for a rewrite. She's been coming over every day for tutoring. Today was just a total coincidence. Then, she lowered her lashes, and for the first time ever, her voice carried a hint of nervousness and caution. Please, don't get the wrong idea. Even if it had been someone else lying there, I still would have stepped in to help. Hearing her go out of her way to distance herself from me, a sudden, bitter ache welled up in my heart. It felt so wrong that I just sulkily pulled the quilt over my head to hide. Miss Bai, is this handsome guy your boyfriend? Liu Yixia poked her head out from behind Bai Xue's shoulder, her face full of eager, gossipy excitement. I was so angry I ripped the thin quilt off me, and Liu Yix's jaw dropped in shock. Mr. Muje, so you two already knew each other? We aren't close at all, I replied, cutting her off firmly. Stop prying into your elder's private affairs, Bai Xue snapped, her expression darkening instantly. But Liu Yixia, the local gossip queen, wasn't afraid of anything. She just grinned and kept spilling the tea. It's just that Miss Bai hasn't been seen with anyone for years, and everyone at school has been whispering that she prefers women. And I saw her so frantic over you today, I really thought there was some good news. Bai Xue's face turned grim, looking like it could drip water. She warned her in a low voice that if she didn't shut up, she'd be rewriting her senior project. Terrified, Liu Yixia gave a quick shiver, immediately realized her mistake, grabbed Grandma Xue, and bolted out the door like a gust of wind. The cramped hospital room felt suddenly empty, with just the two of us left. I struggled to pull myself into a sitting position. You reached out to grab your phone right there on the side. Who are you trying to call? Bai Xue pulled up a chair and sat down by my bed. I wanted to ask Xiao Xing to come to the hospital and keep me company. She curled her lips into a cold sneer. Truly a heartless boss, aren't you? It's almost 10 o'clock at night, and you still want to drag someone over here to play nurse? My fingers froze in midair as I reached for the phone. Thinking about it, that really wouldn't be appropriate. I quietly pulled my hand back. I gave her a grumpy look. Everyone else has already gone home. You're a big professor. Why are you still hovering around here? She didn't pay any mind to my provocation. She just leaned over, unhurried, to set up the small bedside table for me. Afterward, she took out that bowl of century egg and lean meat congee from the plastic bag. It was still steaming hot. She stirred it slowly with a plastic spoon, looking incredibly focused. I'm staying here to look after you tonight. There's no need for you to trouble yourself with that. Your time as a busy professional is so precious. I couldn't bear the guilt of holding you back from your academic research. I turned my head away and gave her a stiff refusal. Bai Xue's hand, which had been stirring the porridge, stopped in its tracks. She slowly lifted those eyes, brimming with complicated emotions, and stared at me. Her expression was dark and unreadable. 4 full years without seeing each other, and the innocent boy from back then has really grown up. But when I looked at her, I felt nothing but a heart full of defensiveness and resentment. She couldn't help but let out a heavy sigh. The always proud woman's tone now carried a hint of humble pleading. Muje, what if we started over? My whole heart trembled violently as if it had been struck, but I kept my face expressionless as I met her gaze. Bai Xue, I've already told you. I've had a new partner for a long time now. Her pupils constricted sharply at these words. But she instantly regained her composure. She scooped up a spoonful of porridge, blew on it twice, and held it to my lips. You good boy, eat the porridge first, Bai Xue. Who exactly are you putting on this show for? I refused to open my mouth. Those eyes behind her glasses, which had been gentle moments ago, suddenly sank, her tone turning undeniably domineering. Behave and eat this. I was instantly fuming and raised my hand to push her arm away. The spoonful of porridge went flying, and the boiling hot rice porridge splashed right onto the back of her hand. It instantly turned a deep red from the burn. My heart skipped a beat in panic. Instinctively, I grabbed the wet wipes from the bedside to help her clean it, but the moment my fingers touched her, my wrist was grabbed by her in a counter motion. Before I could even react, I had already been pulled into that embrace, one that carried that familiar body heat. Her arms were like iron hoops wrapped tightly around my waist, her face buried into the crook of my neck. Her breathing was scorching. Zhe, I regret it. Her voice was raspy, almost pathetic. I went completely stiff. It was clearly her who pushed me away back then. Now, why did she think a casual, flimsy word of regret would make me come back to her? A self-mocking curve tugged at the corner of my lips. Bai Xue, are you planning to play the third party in my relationship now? Her body went visibly rigid, but her arms only tightened further. So what if I am? But I don't want you to be a third party. I pushed her away forcefully. My voice rose sharply. Bai Xue's brows knit tightly together. If you already had someone else in your heart, why did you bother to come and provoke me in the first place? I just felt like all of this was completely absurd. What person I like? She frowned and asked back, her expression filled with genuine confusion. Looking at her innocent expression, my smile turned even colder. What's wrong? The great Professor Bai sure has a short memory, doesn't she? Have you forgotten who you gave that precious piece of yours to back then? That watch. It's been a thorn in my side for 4 whole years. When she rejected me, I could lie to myself and say she had her reasons. Then she turned around and gave the watch she treasured most to Lu Shalai, the person who once humiliated me in public. Bai Xue sensed something was wrong and pressed both hands onto my shoulders. What on earth are you talking about? Who did I give my watch to? It's only been 4 years. Are you really too cowardly to admit you gave it to Lu Shalai? My eyes stung, but I held back the tears, refusing to let them fall. Bai Xue looked completely bewildered and tried to ask more, but I abruptly lay back down and pulled the blanket over my head. I didn't want her to see me in such a pathetic state. I kept telling myself, over and over, not to cry for this woman anymore. Yet, hidden under that blanket, I still cried like a total fool. In the end, I cruelly forced her to leave my hospital room. I clearly saw her eyes turn red as she turned away. The next day, Xiao Xing came to the hospital to pick me up. I was wondering how he even knew I was hospitalized. To my surprise, Xiao Xing said someone had left a letter for him at the hotel reception desk, which is how he found out. Xiao Xing then added, "Oh, by the way, a while back, this beautiful woman was hanging around the hotel entrance. She looked quite refined. She was the one who gave me the letter." He looked at me with curiosity. "Where did you meet a stunner like that? Don't tell me she's someone chasing after you?" I replied calmly, "There was a woman I liked back in my student days." Xiao Xing adjusted his glasses, his face full of gossip. "Oh, chasing an older woman, huh?" Then I confessed to her. She turned me down. Now that I'm back in the country, she's come looking for me again. The one who gave you the letter must be her. Xiao Zheng's eyes lit up. Wow, a rekindled romance, huh? So, do you still like her? Not anymore. Why not? She's too old. Xiao Xing burst out laughing. He leaned in close and lowered his voice. Is she not very good in that department? He kept a straight face. I haven't tested that, so I'm not sure. I paused, and then added with complete seriousness, but personally, I think there's a high possibility of that. Once I recovered, I threw myself back into work. But lately, something strange has been happening. Grandma Xu from upstairs keeps inviting me in for dinner after I get off work. At first, I thought it was just leftovers, but every time I opened the thermal lunchbox, the food inside was fresh and exquisite, as if no one had touched it at all. After I pressed her on it, Grandma Xu reluctantly confessed, saying she had recently hired a chef with incredible skills to come over and cook every day. It was that chef who was worried I'd go hungry and specifically told her to save some for me. I froze in my tracks, a wave of warmth washing over me. You were afraid I'd end up fainting from hunger again, weren't you? Grandma Xu pursed her lips and urged me to eat. Since I'm living here, I have to be safe and sound. Besides, she's not the only one looking out for me. My heart skipped a beat, and I instinctively pressed her on who else was worried about me. But Granny Xu looked flustered and quickly changed the subject. She just kept insisting that I should order less takeout and come eat home-cooked meals with her every day. I felt really bad about it, so I offered to pay for the food. To my surprise, Granny Xu flatly refused, blurting out that someone had already paid for me. Realizing she'd let something slip, Granny Xu looked totally annoyed with herself. She quickly backpedaled, saying she had plenty of money and felt lonely, so having me keep her company for meals was payment enough. Seeing how firm she was, I finally just nodded and agreed. However, rewinding 3 days back, the morning doorbell was suddenly rang like crazy. The student, Lu Yixia, was still groggy and bleary-eyed when she went to open the door, but when she saw Bai Xue standing there, she let out a scream of terror, and then, bam! The apartment door was slammed shut without mercy. Bai Xue was left out in the cold. Her expression darkened, and she ordered coldly, Lu Yixia, I'll give you 3 seconds. Lu Yixia clung to the peephole, wailing in despair. Professor Bai, my thesis is really not finished yet. Did you not come here at the crack of dawn to haunt me? Who would have thought Bai Xue would look so calm? She said she didn't come for the thesis. Lu Yixia opened the door, still half doubting. Brushing her teeth while mumbling, she teased, then what are you doing here so early, Professor? Bai Xue kept a straight face and slowly spit out a few words. To move in with you. Asterisk peeved. Lu Yixia sprayed toothpaste foam all over Bai Xue's clothes. She roared in embarrassment and rage, you pervert. She slammed the door shut again. Outside, Bai Xue remained completely composed. She slowly counted to 5 in her head. After a good while of psyching herself up, Lu Yixia carefully poked her head out the door, looking at her with total disgust. Professor Bai, I never knew you had such unique hobbies. Bai Xue's gaze turned icy as she flatly stated she had zero interest in her. This hit Lu Yixia hard. If you're not interested in me, then why are you here to move in? But then she saw Bai Xue look toward the door across the hall. Her expression remained indifferent. I'm more interested in the person living across from you. Seeing Liu Yixia standing there like a statue, Bai Xue decided to play her trump card. If you don't open the door right now, I'm making you hand in that master's thesis today. Hearing such a naked threat, Liu Yixia shuddered violently. The next second, she scrambled to throw the door open, fawning all over her as she took the luggage and welcomed her inside. In the spacious living room, Bai Xue was lounging lazily on the sofa. She took her time explaining her real motive. Liu Yixia was right beside her, fawning over her and massaging her shoulders. Unable to suppress the gossip lover in her, she asked, Professor Bai. You mean you're here to pursue Professor Muje who lives across the hall, so you specifically came here to crash? Bai Xue looked a bit down as she corrected her. This is purely to clear up the misunderstandings from before. Then, with a slight frown, she asked how to get him to stop being angry. Liu Yixia immediately flopped down. Right next to her, acting like a tactical advisor. Professor Bai, someone like you who's been single forever doesn't understand guys' minds. Do you think guys these days still fall for that hard-to-get routine? Bai Xue knew there was no point in arguing, so she just went along with her logic and kept asking. Then what kind of moves do guys like nowadays? Liu Yix's eyes lit up instantly. She clenched her fist, and with intense excitement, she gave an earth-shattering piece of advice. She insisted on a forced, aggressive approach, claiming that as long as the plan was designed to make Muje throw himself into her arms, the long road to winning him over would surely be smooth sailing. Bai Xue shot her a side-eye, her pretty face full of skepticism. Is this the invaluable experience you've come up with? To her surprise, Liu Yixia looked absolutely smug. She bragged wildly about having recently started a relationship, even recalling it with an intoxicated expression. She said it all started when her boyfriend forced a kiss on her, getting so excited she couldn't help but dance around. Oh my god, he was just so handsome back then. I absolutely adore him. Bai Xue's expression turned dark instantly. Her eyebrow twitched, and her voice turned deathly cold. So, after all this time, the reason you can't finish your thesis is because you're too busy flirting? She leaned in closer, staring her down with a sharp, stern tone. You used to swear you'd dedicate your whole life to our country's chemical industry. Were you lying to me? The intense pressure terrified Liu Yixia, who shrank back, cowering and retreating. Her knees went weak, she plopped onto the floor, and started babbling nonsense, begging for mercy. She claimed it was all love's fault, stubbornly insisting that the dopamine from dating could spark endless inspiration for writing papers. Under Bai Xue's chilling gaze, she finally gave in. Fine, I confess, it's just that I'm not smart enough to write anything. Bai Xue gave her an unforgiving ultimatum. You only have half a month left for your thesis. Liu Yix's eyes darted around, suddenly lighting up, and she scrambled off the floor. She slapped her chest hard and said, Professor Bai, as long as you can show some mercy and give me a few extra days, I swear on my life I'll help you win over Teacher Muje. Bai Xue narrowed her eyes slightly, making it clear she didn't believe a word of her nonsense. But Liu Yixia straightened her back and brazenly landed a killer blow. Because I've got actual combat experience, and you, Professor Bai, don't. Bai Xue's face turned black as a pot instantly. She squeezed a cold sentence out through gritted teeth. I'm currently trying to figure out how to legally kick you out of this program. Even though she thought this girl was unreliable, Bai Xue decided to treat a dead horse as if it were still alive and trust her just this once. She even casually offered to waive her future rent, which made Liu Yixia so grateful she nearly bowed down to her. She patted her chest, guaranteeing she wouldn't let her down. But deep down, Bai Xue knew better than anyone. Getting Muje to forgive her was as difficult as ascending to heaven. She simply couldn't erase that scene in the hospital room from her mind. The look in Muji's eyes was so incredibly cold, and the words he said were devoid of even a shred of warmth. Bai Xue, can you have some self-awareness and never show up in my world ever again?